and I will be speaking or rather I will be sharing some of my insight and knowledge on the repowering of wind power in India. So the first question, particularly for IPPs or anyone, is that why to repower? And every problem starts, or the statement starts with why. So I know all of us are aware about the wind potential India is having, what are the different states. So if I see this graph, I think it is quite clear that why we need a repowering. So the fun part is that by merely increasing of 20 meters in height, the wind potential in a country gets double. So this is the reason why we need repowering, because till 20th century, at the start of 20th century, all our wind turbines were in the kilowatts, and there's the most exploiting the high potential areas as on today. So if you see around out of total 25 gigawatt, what MNRE has studied with the help of NIWE, that 25 gigawatts of wind potential sites are there which are ready for repowering. And this, with the type of ambitions our country has to have 50% of renewables by 2030 or 450 or 500 gigawatts renewables, it is very much required to make best utilization of those high potential winds. So MNRE has issued guideline in somewhere in 2015 to have the turbines less than 1 megawatt which are eligible for the repowering, and recently in 2023 I think they have again issued where they have allowed up to 2 megawatts turbines eligibility as a repowering. So if I see, this is the Tamil Nadu, where you can see around 7 gigawatts alone, out of which 4 gigawatts is below 1 megawatt, and then 3.3 gigawatts is with 2 megawatt turbines which are eligible for the repowering. So this is the reason why we should explore the repowering potentials. Now, what is the advantage we are going to get, and in terms of the capacity, in terms of the PLF? So for that, within TC, we have done an in-house case study from the open source data for the 3 sites, 2 of which in Tamil Nadu and 1 in Karnataka, where we have done a desktop study based upon their existing configuration, their existing turbine capacity, and we have used 3 megawatt turbines for new configuration or micro siting. I hope I am some technical jargons which I am using, we all know that. So we have done the micro setting, or I can say that within the available boundary what was available for the old wind farm, we have reconfigured with the reduced spacing of 2D by 3D, which earlier was 5D by 7D, as our repowering policy issued by MNRE gives us the relaxation on the revised micro siting and allows us to go away with the 5D by 7D. So with that we have considered, and we can see that the minimum PLF increase we can see by 300% compared to the existing wind farms, and the energy generation, it has gone somewhere 3 to 5 times. So in terms of capacity generation or the energy generation, the repowering of an old wind farm asset can help us to increase the potential. Now, every change comes with some challenges, and then you need to have some facilitators. So the basic challenge of wind farm, which we can see with multiple, as a consulting organization, we are working with various IPPs state utilities, and the central utilities. So what we see that the ownership of a smaller wind farm. So some wind farms have just 1 or 2 turbines or 3 turbines. And when I see this potential of that area, maybe within the same wind farm which can, boundary of a wind farm which can produce around 100 to 200 megawatt, there may be more than 3 or 4 owners of the land. So that multiple ownership of a potential wind site or wind farm is one of the challenge. Other is the power evacuation. Since the number of turbines were less, so mostly they were directly connected to the distribution utilities which were in the range of 33 or 66 megawatts, kVs. And now if I have to have a bigger wind farm, I need to have power evacuation to reduce the losses, so up to around 200, 220 or 400 kVs. So this availability of the evacuation infrastructure is one another challenge. Then definitely the power PPA and the tariff. The PPAs were signed at a much lower rate earlier, and with our policy says that we have to respect the existing PPAs for the remaining period, and the additional power which you generate, you can be sell it at your cost. And definitely the capex cost, because it also involves the decommissioning cost. You have to compensate for the existing users, land developers. And when I say the mover is that, as we told that Mr. Joshi also told, our panelists told that we have a very stringent target. The capacity addition is huge in terms of, say 450 gigawatts, I read somewhere 500 gigawatts also, and 100 gigawatts from the wind alone. So definitely we need to have this high potential sites back to utilize their full potential. Then the new technology and efficiency of the turbine with the high efficient turbines, where we were having the PLF of 12%, 10%. Now we can have somewhere around the 28 to 32 and even up to 35%. Then yes, we are getting the interest from the foreign investors for putting up the wind farms, renewable assets in India. Even we are working closely with many of the foreign investors who are keen in directly acquiring the renewable assets to get their RE100. Then as we use the higher efficiency turbines, we go with the lesser number of turbines, and then it in turns reduced by the OPEX cost, considering the lower maintenance on the lesser number of turbines. And yes, the relaxation of micro-siting, which allows me to use more turbines in the same space. Now, the policy intervention, where most of you are interested. So in place, if I say that some things which have been clearly defined, that is the eligibility for the repowering, which all sites are allowed or falls within the advantages what they can gain from the repowering. MNRE has also identified the single point of contacts, state or central nodal agencies, and they have to coordinate with the CTU and STU, and it is allowed to have additional interest rebate of 0.25%, apart from whatever the available for the new wind farms. So as we know that IREDA is giving the lowest interest rate for solar and wind power, which is around 8.95 or 9%. Over and above, for repowering projects, with another 0.25 is proposed. Now, where we need to have this, in my opinion, or you can say in my individual opinion, to best of my understanding, where more clarity is required, is the availability of power, either I can say the availability or the augmentation of the power evacuation. So there are people or the agencies identified who are responsible for this augmentation and availability, but we don't see a clear commitment or how a IPP or a developer will be compensated if this upgradation or evacuation is not available. We have this challenges from our existing customers where they have done their procurements are in place, but because of the evacuation infrastructure, they are not able to move with the development of the projects. So this is one thing where we need to go hand in hand with the government, that we need to have this power evacuation in place. And second thing, we all know, although the seventh largest country in the world in terms of land area, so we have ample amount of land, we have good potential in the wind farm, but acquisition of that land is a challenge. So another area where our government can play a better role is that support in the acquisition of these high potential sites, the land within the high potential sites. So that's it from my side on the repowering. In the interest of time, I try to make it crisp and short so I can share with you whatever is there. Thank you.
Thank you for that very crisp and insightful presentation. I have a few questions before we move to the audience questions. There were 3 case studies that you had mentioned in your presentation. So those are case studies of actual projects that you're doing, or it's just a calculation that you're doing?
So it's as you know that repowering is still not there. It has not come in place in India. The policies are yet to be fully functional. So to present a case how and why these policies can be helpful and how we can utilize the better potential, we have done this case studies on an actual existing wind farm. But the configuration or the calculation what we do in terms of energy generation and the capacity, that was based on the desktop study, and the data was taken from the open sources available with the existing wind farms.
And can you share which are the developers of these projects?
So I will refrain myself.
Okay.
In
Sure. We'll move to some audience questions. Any comments? Yes. We'll start from the left.
So you said that your analysis, right? You're going for 2D, 3D spacing for the larger turbine?
Yes, sir, that's correct.
But then you have a lot of wake losses, right?
So if I can share my presentation, and that's okay. I can share this data with you, Dr. Arul. So we have tried both on the acoustic front and both on the wake loss. So we started with turbine spacing of, instead of 5D to 7D, we started with the 4D to 6D, 3D to 4D, then 2D to 3D. Considering the wake loss remains within 10%. So if I see, it was 93, 94. So the wind was available, the turbulence has gone down, and acoustics were in the place. Considering only thing is that this we have considered as a wind farm, so we don't envisage any habitant within that wind farm.
What was the blade length in the older turbines?
Sorry?
The blade, the radius, diameter, what was that?
So
in the older turbines?
Older turbines, it was close to 60 to 80 meters
So
diameter.
then you can use the same number of turbines, right? If you're going to 2D, 3D, and the earlier configuration 5D, 7D, right?
Yeah.
So then you could potentially use the same number of turbines of larger capacity.
No. See, actually, this was a wind farm, which you can see. So it was 5D, 7D, so it comes around 8,400. And we have used it, this one as a 140 dia. So it becomes 280. And we have not used the same location as it was, because you see this micro siting which was done, it was in smaller pieces for a wind farm. So we have reconfigured within the outer boundary these turbines.
No, no, because the reason I'm saying is using the same location has its advantages from a land acquisition standpoint, right? Even if you use 1/3 or 1/4 of the same locations.
Using the same location, yes, the decommissioning you have to do it, but other than that I cannot use any facility, neither the power augmentation
But the land.
but the land. So the land in terms, yes, ROW has to be new, and if I see that the older one was where foundation was there, so it again went to two to three owners. So I have to go with all the three owners to get their concern and give the new, I will say the PP in terms of revenue sharing with them. So we have, ideally we have used it, which the micro siting as a criteria which can give you the bigger and the better potential.
There's a question at the back. Third row. Third row, yes.
Yeah, good afternoon. I am Bharat Rane from SBI. I would like to know in these case studies what would be the capital investment and how much time it would take to repower actually.
To answer your question, I will be very clear. We have not gone in the capex calculation. Okay, but yes, we do have. I mean, not we. Our policy by the MNRE, they do suggest some calculation over there. And but in this study, we have not done in the calculation, the capex calculations. So it was more of the capacity calculation, I will say.
Study on the amount of time to repower?
See, repowering, it's around 6 months to 1 year more than the new wind farm. So there is a decommissioning of this existing farm which is required, and that is the additional thing. All other, it will be similar to the new wind farm.
Yes. There's a question at the back, second last row.
Good afternoon, Saurabh Bagchi from Serentica. My question is if one developer does a repowering, what happens to the wake effect of the adjacent wind farm, let's say that's owned by some other developer?
Yeah, so as we say about the repowering, so basically it will be, repowering will be definitely for the lower number of turbines. So, and if I go for repowering as an investor or as a developer, I will go for a bigger farm. So that 3 or 4 developers or the IPPs has to come together to make it financially viable for a bigger wind farm. So we cannot, ideally it is not financially viable to use the wind turbines for 3 or 4 turbines only, repowering. So it should be in the range of 100 or 200 megawatt, where you can have a multiple present owners with one aggregator who will be doing the repowering for the full area.
So let's say 100, 200 megawatt gets repowered. What happens to the wake effect on the adjacent?
See, that is what even our guidelines says. I have to maintain a minimum 2D or 3D or 5D with respect to the next turbines. So when I am using the configuration of a repowering, I am using within my wind farm, considering that outer boundary I have to, outer boundary has to have that spacing. So my turbines I can place as a smaller spacing, but boundary I have to maintain with respect to the other wind farm.
Thank you.
Mike. So can you repeat the comment so that everybody can hear it?
No, I said in the slides you showed a P90 PLF of 43% and a 46% for the last 2 sites. At a
So
2D,
that-
3D spacing.
I think that should be P50, if I am.
Oh, it says P90 in the slide, that's why I was asking.
Okay.
Because that seems too good.
Is there any other question? Any other question on the left? Yes.
So what is your future plan after this study? Means what you are going to do after this?
See, this study, as a consultant, we can share with our clients or the developers who are interested in repowering based upon the projects announced by the SECI or the MNRE. So, as a consultant, we cannot have or develop our own wind farm. It is to share with our clients how this particular concept of repowering can help in getting a better generation.
So the only solution is to remove the existing turbine and replace new with new turbine, or
See-
in the existing we can do some modifications.
See, when we say existing, it's in a range of kilowatts or less than 1 megawatt. They are having a hub height of say 80 meters and 200 meters. And my potential, wind potential is better at 120 and 150 meters height. So if I use a higher hub height, then I can have a better control on or better outcome of the wind energy. So if I am continuing to do on the smaller turbines, I cannot utilize that area.
Thank you. There are two questions in the second row.
From structural design aspect, as far as whatever I have understood repowering is, if at all we change the turbine, or we put the higher efficiency turbine, does it impart any additional load on the civil structures? And what could be the remedial measures in empower or strengthening the civil structures also, as far as foundations and all are concerned? So that's a slightly different aspect, but could you please put some light on that part?
You cannot use any infrastructure what is already available. So it's a totally new.
See, what I understand in this presentation, that whatever is there, it is all demolished and a new has come. New turbines, new power system, everything new has come. Only the land is there. Only the land has been utilized. So it will take around 1.5 to 2 years time to develop the plant. So tell me one thing, that land cost is hardly 10% of the project. Land cost. So we save only 10%. In the repowering of this total wind power, we save 10% only. Whereas 90% of investment has to be new. Correct? And then whatever is to be demolished, that is to be sold off or salvaged. So what we gain it? Because ultimately whatever was the old was there, it was also generating some power. So let it be generate that power. Why don't we have the new plant then? Saving 10% only, whatever old plant was there, that was also generating some power. And that has gone to waste now. So we just saving the 10%, you have the brand new wind farm, and let old one is also continue.
Yes, sir. All of us expect the same thing. So we tend to have low-hanging fruit first. So whatever the available land is there, as an investor or as a developer, I will go definitely for where there is a clear land. Why to demolish anything? Why to take headache of that selling that scrap in the market and then to have a repowering? So that will not happen at individual level or a developer level. It is just like MNRE or SECI. See, once our overall land of India is fixed. So if I have overall capacity of say 1000 500 gigawatt at 120, 1000 gigawatt. So in order to utilize that capacity, I have to have that land as a free at a India level, at a national level, not as an individual level. So if I have to have that capacity from the renewables as a country, I have to get this thing. Now it comes again as you have got the VGF for same thing, offshore wind farm. Now when the SECI comes along with this bid, it has to be a level playing field for all the developers, that because of the repowering, see this additional interest rebate I am giving you, and beyond that, if I need some support from the government to make it financially viable, then only I am going to do that. So yes, to answer your question, it will not be at the individual or developer level. It has to be has a nationwide level where the push from the government and the support from the government is needed to India have 100 gigawatts of by 2030 and maybe 500 gigawatts or 450 gigawatts of the total renewable. So it's a push also from the government required.
Thank you. So a few years back, we had actually conducted an entire conference on wind repowering. And one of the other concerns that the developers had shared that for the 1.5 year period where the plant will be decommissioned, new plant will be there. So the developer will be losing out on revenue. So how can they be compensated for that, and how can the business model be made so that it's a win-win for both discoms and developers?
So I would not say whether it's how beneficial is for the current developers, but the policy allows you, give you a moratorium period of 2 years right now, not to exceed for 2 years to have your repowering. That time you will be given waive off if you have a PPA of supplying the power at certain rates. So you will be waived off, and then you have to continue further once you get your plant commission. And in case you are using it as a captive power plant, that power, then you have to make arrangement to buy it from grid, which personally at my level I don't see it's a very lucrative, because we were maybe buying at a cheaper rate, and now I have to buy it at a new rate. So I have to make my own arrangement. So these are some things which I can see. It took 8 years, 2015 to now 2023, to have more clarity on this policy, and maybe another 1 or 2 years it will have to more clarity on this policy.
Thank you. With this, we'll end this session. Big hand for...
See, Europe, they have done quite, by 2010 they have done most of their wind farms which were of the lower level capacity, and they have got the same almost, actually I would say my inquisitiveness started on reading or doing some desktop study when I read about the works done in Germany, particularly in Germany, where they have got a similar enhancement in the power or the PLF, plant load factor, the generation of around 3 to 4 times. So these are already installed way back, maybe around 10-15 years back in Germany. They have this established wind farms. So it's a, yes, the new capex cost was quite high, but when it was compared to the without any indexation with the original cost, but the generation and PLF load has increased significantly. And definitely when you have better efficiency turbines, your OPEX cost gets reduced.
Thank you. And I'm sure people have a lot more questions, but you can take it offline during the lunch break. Big hand for Mr. Parihar for answering all the questions. Thank you.